ladies and gentlemen. You may be seated.
Your Honor, the state would call Robert Henson to the witness stand.
Okay, before he comes in, I just need to ask my question. Was everybody able to follow my instructions about not getting any information outside of the courtroom on this case? Was there anyone who did not follow that instruction? And the record will reflect that no one has raised their hand. Okay, you may proceed.
May it please the court. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Can you please introduce yourself to the members of the jury and spell your name for the court reporter?
My name is Robert Henson. It's Hinson.
Sir, what's your occupation?
I'm a hospital pastor with one of our local churches.
Prior to taking that position, were you employed with the state attorney's office back in 2015?
Yes, I was.
How long had you worked with the state attorney's office?
From December of 2012 until the end of August of 2017.
Prior to working with the state attorney's office, did you have a career in law enforcement?
Yes, sir, I did.
Where did you work before the state attorney's office?
For 27 years with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, 26 to 27 years with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office.
And during your term with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, did you spend the time as a homicide investigator?
Yes, sir, I did.
And in fact, in the year of 2015, were you assigned to me as a homicide investigator for the state attorney's office?
Yes, sir, I was.
Sir, I'd like to direct your attention to April of 2015. Did there come a time when information was brought to the state attorney's office attention from the Duval County Jail?
Yes, sir.
Can you please explain how that information came forward?
We received information that the defendant, Mr. Smith, and another inmate were talking through between two cells, isolation cells, through some chase from an informant. At that point in time, we developed an idea of how we wanted to possibly memorialize or obtain that information when we were, if that conversation was taking place.
Now, the information that we received was from a confidential informant inside the jail, correct?
That's correct, yes, sir.
Okay, and at this point, when the informant told you about this, did he indicate that the defendant may be talking about the facts and circumstances of this case?
Yes, sir, there was the possibility that he was doing that, and also that there possibly was some conversation about disrupting court proceedings and things. We just weren't sure what kind of information we were going to get. So when we decided to come up with this idea of placing this device in there to try to get this information or obtain this conversation, that's how we came up with it.
Okay, and the information was obtained with you and myself present from that confidential informant, correct?
That is correct, yes, sir.
That took place in April. After April of 2015, what efforts did you make to investigate the possibility of recording conversation without the parties knowing about it?
I spoke with Jail Intelligence Officer Charles Carter. He's familiar with the isolation cells and how they're set up. I was not. How the layout was, how the cells were adjacent to each other. And so I approached him as far as talking about trying to get in and look at the cell or an area or how we could possibly obtain this recording. I also went after having him photograph the cell and memorializing that. I went to a technical support detective and asked him what kind of devices we had with the sheriff's office at that time that we could use that kind of recording to place in there over a long period of time. Could we remotely listen to it from outside the jail? Did we have to have a long-term device that was in there? And according to Detective Gonzalez, who was helping me with this, they did not have the right equipment. So he had, after talking to him, he had to order some of that.
And when we're talking specifically about the information that we obtained about how the conversation was taking place, purportedly the inmates were communicating back and forth using the air vents that were connected by a pipe chase in between the cells.
That's correct. The cells were set up in such a way that there was almost like a V, and on either wall there was a square. I'm not sure the exact dynamic of it, but there was a wire mesh that was over and in between one wire mesh on the isolation cell of Mr. Smith's cell and the isolation cell of the other inmate. There was an area, for lack of a better word, it was a chase area where there was pipes and other things like that, that we thought we could possibly put a device in there to obtain the conversation, if there was any conversation taking place.
Eventually, through the help of the technical support unit with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, was a recording device obtained that could operate for a period of time within that pipe chase.
Yes,
Directing your attention to June 23rd of 2015, through arrangements with the other detectives, was the recording equipment covertly placed inside that pipe chase within the Duval County Jail.
yes,
After approximately 7 days, was that recording equipment then removed to monitor and see what was captured on the recording equipment?
yes,
As a part of your duties with the State Attorney's Office, did you in fact listen to all the hours that were captured during the course of the recording that took place?
that's correct. I believe it was 74 and a half hours I listened to.
And out of that time frame, did you identify specific portions that were relevant to the case of the state of Florida versus Donald Smith?
I did.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Detective, I'm now showing you what's been previously marked for identification purposes as 5K. Do you recognize that disc?
Yes, sir, that's the disc I signed.
Okay. And prior to coming to court, did you have the opportunity to listen to the contents of 5K and identify that that was in fact the result of the recording equipment that was obtained during the days between June 23rd of 2015 and June 30th of 2015?
Yes,
Okay. And these specific clips were exact recordings, just 4 separate clips from that time frame.
that's correct.
Thank you. Thank you, Detective. I don't have any further questions at this time.
Any cross-examination? May this witness be excused?
He may be, Your Honor.
Thank you. We appreciate your time today. You may call your next witness.
And Your Honor, at this point in time, we just need a moment. The next witness is an undercover officer, and we need to kill the video equipment.
Okay.
Portion of this testimony, we're then going to be playing a recording, and so we would pass out the earbuds at this point in time.
Okay, so y'all don't need them immediately, but you will need them during the next witness's testimony. So we're going to go ahead and give them to you now.
Your Honor, the state would next call Officer Charles Carter to the witness stand.
Officer Carter, thank you. Good afternoon, sir. Right in front of me, Madam Clerk will swear you in.
May it please the court. Sir, can you please introduce yourself to the members of the jury and spell your name for the court reporter?
Yes, sir. My name is Officer Carter. I work for the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office in the Department of Corrections in the Intelligence Unit.
And Officer Carter, what's your first name?
Charles?
Okay, thank you. Can you please explain to me your duties in working at the Duval County Jail?
Yes, sir. I do anything from assisting other divisions inside the Sheriff's Office, anything from gang units to violent crimes to anything they need help with.
how long have you been employed with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office?
8 years and almost a month.
Okay. And during the time frame between June of 2013 until present time, have you been assigned to the Duval County Jail?
Yes, sir.
Specifically, let me direct your attention to the April to June timeframe of 2015, where you contacted by investigator Robert Henson from the State Attorney's Office in regards to a possible investigation.
Yes, sir.
And how did you assist Investigator Henson in following through with that investigation?
They were asking for some questions about taking pictures of our I-block cells where inmates are housed and potentially setting up recording devices inside there if need be for a potential case they were working on.
And did you assist in providing those photographs and working with the technical support unit?
Yes, sir.
I'd now like to show you what's been previously marked and moved into evidence as State's Exhibit 108. Could you please describe to the jury what is depicted in this photograph?
That is a picture inside of our housing units. It's a door that leads to the vent system where piping is for water and for air vents.
This hallway, where the person obviously is standing where the photograph is taken from, what is in that hallway area? What can be seen from that hallway?
That is inside of a dorm. It's a housing unit where inmates are housed.
Okay. And from the isolation cells, are there windows out that look out towards the dorm area itself?
Yes, sir. Inside those the I-block cells, those have a window on the front of them that faces out.
And does that also have access or a vantage point to the elevator area and the security vestibule area where at times jail tours and things of that nature are taking place?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so there is a line of sight from within inside the isolation cell to outside where the elevator area and vestibule area is located.
Yes, sir.
Now showing you what's been previously marked and moved into evidence as State's Exhibit 109, could you describe what's depicted in that photograph?
Yes, sir. That's the piping for the water and the electrical for the lights and things that are in there for the timers for the toilets and things of that nature.
Okay, and where do these air vents actually lead to? I know you've followed up and looked through with this. Where do, I guess, the air vents from the cells then lead to exhaust out of the building?
Yes, sir. They're for like airborne diseases. They lead straight to the roof.
Okay, so this ventilation system then goes straight up to the roof?
Yes, sir.
Now showing what's been previously marked and moved into evidence as State's Exhibit 110. Describe what's depicted in this photograph.
The grates on the left and right would be the air vents that are leading to both the I-block cells that are housed beside each other.
Okay, so this where I put an R and then I put an L, those are the two grates that you're referring to?
Yes, sir.
And so this pipe chase is sort of triangular in nature in that they're isolation cells that, I guess, share that common area, only separated by the pipe chase.
Yes, sir.
So the ventilation in the left leads to one cell, the ventilation to the right leads to another cell.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Based upon information that was obtained, did you work with Detective Gonzalez from the Technical Support Unit to try to figure out a method to place a recording device within that pipe chase?
Yes, sir.
And did you actually assist him in entering into the dorm in a covert fashion and placing a recording device in the pipe chase in between the cells where the defendant, Donald Smith, was located and then another inmate?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Brings me to a good point. You've been working at the jail throughout the entire time frame since June of 2013.
Yes, sir.
During your work with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, did you become acquainted and have you met the defendant, in this case, Donald Smith?
I haven't sat down and spoke with him or anything, but I've heard him before. Yes, sir.
Okay. And you've heard him interact with other individuals?
Yes, sir.
And this is over the long period of time in between 2013 and today?
Yes, sir. Just because of where he's housed, it's a walkway for everyone when you come straight off the elevator.
Do you see the person who you know is Donald Smith located here in this courtroom today?
Yes, sir. He's right there.
Could you point him out and describe where he's seated and what he's wearing?
Yes, sir. He's to the left, wearing a tannish shirt with a blue and green tie.
Based upon working over the last 4.5 years in proximity to where Mr. Smith is housed and you're working in that housing unit, can you easily recognize his voice?
Yes, sir.
Now, On June 23rd, did you and Detective Gonzalez actually place recording equipment in the cells where Donald Smith and another inmate were going to be housed?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then about 7 days later, did you go back and did you remove that recording equipment from those two cells?
Yes, sir.
And during that entire time frame, was Mr. Smith and the other inmate located within those cells once they were moved into those cells after the equipment was placed in there?
Yes, sir.
Now, Your Honor, may I approach, well, hold on 1 second beforehand. Moving on to State's Exhibit 111, does this basically show the interior of that isolation cell that you're talking about?
Yes, sir.
Where in this photograph, and you can depict it by marking on the screen in front of you, where is that air vent that we were just talking about?
It'd be right here.
Okay. And then moving on to State's Exhibit 112, just a closer viewpoint of that air vent.
Yes, sir.
And again, State's 113, just another vantage point a little bit closer. That's directly above the mirror and the sink and the bathroom facilities of that cell block, correct?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Now showing you what's been previously marked for identification purposes as 5K. Do you recognize that disc?
Yes, sir.
How do you recognize it?
I signed the top line.
Prior to coming to court today, did you have the opportunity to listen to the contents and the recordings that have been obtained on this disc and verify that they were accurately obtained?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And have you had the opportunity to identify those parties on that disc?
Yes, sir.
And were you able to identify the parties on that disc?
Yes, sir.
Is this an exact recording from the equipment that was placed inside the pipe chases in the days between June 23rd and June 25th of 2015?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, at this point in time, we move into evidence states Exhibit 5K as the next number of exhibit. Subject for previous objection.
All right, subject to previous objection, it will be admitted as State's Exhibit 114. Do they need to put on their,
Your Honor, at this point in time, you're going to
yeah, to put on your earphones now?
make sure they're on as well. They're turned on. Just a point. What's that?
Let your neighbor look and make sure that they're on.
Turn them on and make sure the light is on in front. I think your light's not on here. Good to go. With the court's permission, may I publish the exhibit to the jury?
You may.
Should be ashamed, you hear me? Yeah. Let that girl run out looking like that, man, with big eyelashes. See, her mama should be ashamed.
Hold on 1 second, that's the wrong clip.
Be ashamed, you. Yeah. You should.
Brian. It's leaking, it's not generating. Why don't we just try it out again? Might be easier. Apologize, Your Honor, we're having some technical difficulty with it. said the one in the back, is that the inmate who was housed directly adjacent to the defendant, Donald Smith?
Yes, sir.
Man, did it ever get turned around, man? These are young girls, you hear me? They're young, man. But man, when you look at this girl's ass, you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. You know how old they are? About 12, 13. But this one got an ass like cocoa weed. You can see the wine glass on her ass.
The second voice that's on that recording, is that the voice of Donald Smith?
Yes, sir.
Okay, the person who said they're about 12.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. You still think she's 12? Yeah. That's right in my alley right there. Huh? That's my target area right there. That's what I go after. Well, you have fun with that one.
Officer Carter, the person who said, that's my target area, that's what I go after, whose voice is that?
The defendants.
You still think she's 12? Yeah. That's right in my alley right there. Huh? That's my target area right there. That's what I go after. Well, you have fun with that one. See, her office would be ashamed, yeah. Letting that girl run out looking like that, man, with fake eyelashes, fake fucking nails, fake hair, fake titties probably. Yeah, I'd like to run into her at Walmart.
Officer Carter, the voice that just said, I'd like to run into her at Walmart, is that the voice of the defendant?
Yes, sir.
That hair was just ridiculous. Straight fucking ridiculous. Cherry got some blood on her? Yeah? Damn, boy.
Let me just inquire, the voice that we just heard that said, Cherish have some butt on her, that was not this defendant, correct?
Yes, sir.
That was the other inmate in the adjacent cell.
Yes, sir.
She ain't acting like that, though. That's because she ain't black. She ain't a lot for a white girl.
The last voice that was depicted there that said, because she ain't black, but she had a lot for a white girl, was that the voice of this defendant?
Yes, sir.
Officer Carter, this recording was made 2 years after the defendant was arrested, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions.
Any cross-examination? All right, may this witness be excused?
You may.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate your time. thank you, Mr. Khalil. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, if you'd step into the jury room, I'm not sure how long this will take. We'll have you back out as quickly as we can. Thank you. It'll be at least 10. You have time to use the restroom. All right, I'll deny the motion for judgment of acquittal and find that the evidence thus far taken in the light most favorable to the state does present a prima facie case. Do you have any witnesses other than whether or not Mr. Smith might testify or not?
No, Your Honor, I have a consultation with my client, so I'll not be presenting.
Okay, let's take a break so you can speak with him about his options. And if you'll tell me how long you need, that's how long we'll take.
We have had an opportunity to discuss this prior to the beginning of the trial and throughout the trial, but
Maybe a 10-minute recess then? Okay, we'll be in recess for 10 minutes. You need to clear the courtroom so they can have their discussion. Okay. Mr. Smith, you're already under oath from earlier today, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Your attorneys indicated, both of them, that you do not wish to call any witnesses to present a defense case. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
They've also indicated that you do not wish to testify. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And you'll recall during jury selection, I read the jury portion of the instructions, which I also read to them before we started the trial, that you have the absolute right to remain silent. You're not required to present evidence or witnesses or testimony or do anything. It's up to the state. That's their burden of proof. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
You do, however, if you wish, have the right to testify in your own defense, but you've indicated you do not wish to do that. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you also have the right, if you wish, to present witnesses, but you've also indicated you do not wish to do that. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you're 61 years of old.
I am
Okay. I didn't say that very well. You're 61 years of age, correct?
old.
Oh. And we've talked about your work in education history in the past, but I know you have a high school diploma. I can't remember. Do you have any college or skills training?
I do.
Okay. And you've worked at various jobs. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you had any difficulty understanding anything about the proceedings?
No, ma'am.
Do you have any difficulty understanding about your right to testify or not testify, that you have the right to remain silent?
That's a lot of questions, but I understand what you said. Yes, I understand. I don't want to testify.
And you have the right to remain
And I
silent?
have the right.
Okay. Any other questions about that?
I do.
Okay, did you have enough time to discuss this with your attorneys before you told me your decision?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there anything else you want to ask them before I accept your decision?
No.
I do find that Mr. Smith is freely and voluntarily electing to participate in his right to remain silent, as well as to not present any witnesses for a defense case. That means that we're through with the testimony. I'll be sending the jury home today. We'll be meeting right after that in here just to formalize the jury instructions that they'll be given. They'll come back tomorrow. There'll be closing arguments from the state, the defense, and the state, and then I will instruct them, and then they will deliberate. Do you understand all of that?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, then.
Your Honor, the only other inquiry, because it will affect your excusal of the jurors, is whether or not there's going to be a waiver of sequestration during deliberations. We don't know how long it's going to take, but if there's no waiver of sequestration, we might want to have them come before tomorrow in the event that they do not reach a decision before it's closed business.
yeah, my client and I have had an opportunity to discuss it. We'll waive sequestration.
And you're only waiving it at this point just for the deliberations on the guilt phase. I'm not asking you to do anything further than that at this point. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
And I don't think it's going to be an issue. I mean, I think I can time the things pretty well. I mean, if we get well into the afternoon on arguments and things, I might just wait and bring the jury back the next day. I mean, we'll, I think, be able to work around that, but would it be correct for me to put on the record that you have freely and voluntarily waived any right to sequestration during the guilt phase?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Actually, I don't know. I don't think it's going to be an issue. If it becomes an issue, I'm going to ask him again.
It's not going to be an issue.
No, I just don't think it's going to, I think I can work the timing out, but if we get to that point, I'll inquire again. I'm not going to tell him to come prepared for it, but if it looks like we might need to look into that, I'm going to inquire again. Okay? All right.
Defense is ready to proceed.
So I'm going to come out, ask you to call your witnesses. You'll announce no witnesses, and I'll tell the jury, or you'll announce that you're resting, and I'll tell the jury that we're through for the day and that we'll bring him back in the morning.
Yes, sir.
Okay? All right. I think I'll tell him we'll start at 9:30 tomorrow because we don't ever get there at 9. So I was going to be here at 9:15, and then maybe they'll be ready at 9:30. You ready?
You ready, Judge?
We're ready.
Jury's in the courtroom.
You may be seated. Ms. Schlags?
No, defense rests.
All right, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, both the state and the defense have rested their case. It's too late for us to get into the next part of the trial today, so I'm going to send you home early. I'm going to ask you to be back at 9:15 tomorrow. We don't seem to be able to get 9 o'clock down quite right. So if you'll be here at 9:15, we're here before you anyway, but we'll hope to get started by 9:30, which gives you some time in the jury room before we bring you out. Again, please do not discuss the case among yourselves or with anyone else. Do not look at news or internet or listen to the radio, read the paper, et cetera, et cetera. You have the picture now, I think. You can only have information that you get in the courtroom with all of us present to make your decisions. So with that, we thank you for your time today, and you're free to go to be here at 9:15 tomorrow morning. Thank you. Any exceptions or objections for the record before we recess?
No, Your Honor.
And I'm calling it recess, but we're actually remaining to try to finalize the jury instructions for tomorrow morning. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
The trial itself, though, with the jury is in recess. And I have a copy of the suggested instructions. We're just dealing with tomorrow now, not anything further
Yes, Your Honor.
on the instructions, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Have you had any time to go over these with Mr. Smith?
I don't know that I would have provided these to Mr. Smith. They are the standards. I've had an opportunity to go through
Okay,
them, Your Honor.
okay,
And I don't see anything that isn't in the standard jury instructions.
okay. I did want to let y'all know that Mike Smith, who, as you know, is the IT guy, they have a cart with a, I don't know the right technical terms, whatever the jury would need to play things if they wanted to review evidence that was played. They have that cart ready, and they need to know if the laptop needs to be inspected, they'll bring it down here. I'm not sure if we need to do that today or if you want to do it tomorrow. I don't know that it does us any good to do it today. I would think the defense and the state would want it inspected tomorrow.
I think tomorrow will be fine, Your Honor, and then it's gonna take some time to move these evidence into the jury.
Right.
We can probably do it at that point.
Okay. Let me let him know that.
Yeah, no, I don't know if the court's taking notes about the court, but we don't need any further time to review the jurisdiction.
Okay, I was just letting Mike Smith know if they want to bring that down here in the morning and put it in there or leave it in the courtroom, but we'll inspect it after the instructions are given.
Yes, ma'am.
So he would know. Okay, if you're ready, we can start.
Yes, Your Honor.
If you've already gone over them, well, I have a cover page which I sign and date.
And no objections to that, Your Honor.
I also, I'll have to get another copy once they're corrected, if there are any corrections. I give a copy to the jury. Is there any objection to that?
No, Your Honor, we would request that.
No objection from the state, Your Honor. Your Honor, just, I know other judges have done it this way. When you read the instructions, you want to have Mr. Hughes send the pass scroll through the instructions on the screen with them.
I think it helps them,
I think that's very helpful.
because then they've had a chance to actually read them, quote unquote, off the screen. And that way, when they have just the one set in the back with the four-person, whoever that is, they've already all had a chance to read and listen, which I think we all know means they learn better that way with at least two ways. So I think that's a good idea. So I'll have a cover page. I'll sign two, one for the jury, and I'll mark one that goes to the clerk for the record. And then thanking them for their attention.
And no objection to that, no.
A statement of the 3 charges that are on the indictment.
And no objection, Your Honor.
The introduction to homicide,
No objection, Your Honor, to the standard.
and it includes the instruction for justifiable homicide, excusable homicide as well. And then it goes on to the elements of murder in the first degree.
And no objection, Your Honor.
Okay. And then felony murder, first degree.
No objection, Your Honor.
And then when there are lesser included crimes or attempts, and the lesser includeds that are listed for count 1 are murder in the second degree and manslaughter.
And no objection, Your Honor.
Then the instruction for murder in the second degree and the instruction for manslaughter.
No objection to either the second-degree murder or manslaughter instruction.
Okay. And then for count 2, kidnapping, the instruction for that.
And no objection, Your Honor.
And then when there are lesser included crimes or attempts, and the lesser included is false imprisonment,
Yes, Your Honor. And no objection.
the instruction for false imprisonment,
And no objection to that, Your Honor.
the because count 2 well, okay, and then I guess it's count 3 is the sexual battery, is that correct?
It is.
So my copy says count 2, so it should be count 3.
Yes, that is a scrivener's error, Your Honor. It should be count 3. You can double check to make sure it's kidnapped instead of count 2.
false imprisonment and the kidnapping both say count 2.
Yes, so there's just an error that would be corrected at the top of the sexual matter as it relates to the count. There are enhancements.
Okay, and then after the sexual battery instruction, there's a lesser included page, and the lesser included is battery. Is that correct?
Battery is necessarily lesser included offense, Your Honor.
Okay. And then the instruction for the crime of battery.
And no objection is
The date of the crime, which is in here on the instructions, on or between June 21st, 2013 and June 23rd, 2013. I'm sorry, June 22nd, 2013.
And no objection, Your Honor.
Venue in Duval County.
No objection, Your Honor.
And then the standard instruction for, excuse me, plea of not guilty, reasonable doubt, and burden of proof.
And no objection, Your Honor.
And then the weighing the evidence. There could be some that don't apply. Generally, the
Only the first five apply.
first 5 are usually standard. And then it looks like the 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 do not apply, but I'll hear from the defense.
Your Honor, we would request number 7. We didn't have any direct testimony, but in abundance of caution, we request 7 as there's been pressure. Dr. Rao specifically commented this morning at the beginning of her testimony that this case shocked the community. And so we asked for that.
Judge, I don't think that applies, but I have no objection. That's his asking for instruction, providing instruction.
Okay, and is that the only one you're asking for 6 through 10?
I can't make any arguments as to the applicability of any of the others.
So 7 will be renumbered as 6, correct?
Yes.
And we will not read 6, 8, 9, or 10. They'll be removed from the final copy. Is that what you're requesting? Is that correct? And then there's a page that will apply, the defendant not testifying, correct?
Yes, Your Honor. And no objections to it as provided.
Okay, and then there's a page on defendant statements, which I would relate to the wire,
And yes, Your Honor, no objection.
as well as, I guess it could relate to some of the other testimony, for example, from the mother. Then eyewitness identification,
And no objection, Your Honor.
then the standard rules for deliberation,
No objection, Your Honor.
cautionary instruction,
No objection, Your Honor.
notes, which I tell them about what to do with their notes,
No objection, Your Honor.
verdict, which is the instruction on the verdict,
No objection.
Single defendant, multiple counts,
No objection, Your Honor.
verdict and submitting the case to the jury.
And no objection, Your Honor.
I don't have proposed verdict forms. Okay, thank you. Do you have a copy of those, Ms. Lax and Mr. Fletcher? Okay. So the one for count 1 does have,
And no objection as to the verdict form for,
and it does have the lesser included that we discussed, and then the verdict for count 2, they have some findings they need to make. They do on count 1 too, but any objection?
No, Your Honor.
There's several different findings they have to make on count 2, and then on count 3, a little bit simpler. They just select one box or one line, and they're done. Any objection on count 3?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, so in whole, there's no other objection to basically standard instructions. We are including one of the eyewitness things they can consider at this defense request. And then I think that's it. Do y'all know who's going to close?
I'll be doing both closes with you.
And Mr. Fletcher?
Okay. You can change your mind, I just wondered. Okay, is there anything else we need to do before we recess? Really recess for the day?
No, Your Honor.
Do you need some time? Do you need some time?
I think we're good enough.
Okay, all right, thank you. We will be in real recess. Thank you.